we had this confrontation between Iran and Israel. Before going to this attack of Iranian on Israel, let's talk about the seizure of an Israeli ship in the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian government has seized an Israeli ship in the Strait of Hormuz. What's the importance of these actions, in your opinion?
Well, Iran's able to send a message that it can shut down the Straits of Hormuz if it decides to. And that's something the West really needs to take into consideration, because we've already proven that the West, the United States Navy in particular, cannot open the Red Sea. The Houthis, who are a much, much smaller, much, much less capable country, militarily, economically, politically, have completely defeated the United States Navy. And so if the Houthis can do that in the Red Sea, just imagine what the Iranians can do with ample, far more missiles, far more capable missiles, and an actual navy to back it up. So this seizure was, I think, part of an overall coordinated Iranian response to remind the world that Iran is not some power to be ignored, and that it's not some meaningless country that can be repeatedly insulted and violated. And we'll just have to sit back and take it. So the combination of capturing this Israeli-owned ship sends a signal both to all the Gulf states that they can, shut down that Persian Gulf, which means, particularly for the United States, a significant spike in the price of oil. All of this during an election year, which would drive gas prices up and make Biden's political fortunes even more dim than they already are. So, I think that this was not an isolated event, is what I'm saying.
And let's talk about this attack on Israel, that we knew that Iranian would attack. You talk about them, that you said maybe in the weekend they will do that, and they did it.
Yeah.
First of all, how Iran started attacking Israel? How did you find this type of attack?
Well, what's interesting about it is by Friday after we talked, this really heated up dramatically in terms of all these different countries pulling out of Iran, pulling out of Israel, and then Turkey and a couple of other countries in the Middle East announcing they wouldn't allow Israel or the United States to overfly their territory if they're planning on attacking Iran. It then, it became clear to me that Iran, at a minimum, was telling other countries, and there's been reports now to that effect, informing Turkey, hey, we're gonna hit Israel. Just be aware, be prepared, and we're only going to hit military targets. They may have even informed the United States, without giving away precisely where they were going to hit. But what they did was a demonstration of power. They were not delivering a full punch. Instead, they were, they're like walking up and smacking somebody upside of the head. Somebody who's standing there saying, okay, I'm a good boxer, you can't hit me. And Iran walked up and went, whack, hit him. And I think it surprised Israel, because what Iran demonstrated was a new kind of strategy that we saw a parallel of it, sort of similar during World War II in the Battle of Midway. Because during the Battle of Midway, you had the Japanese aircraft carriers, and their fighter aircraft took off, went up into the sky, and started shooting down all of these dive bombers. But as they shot them down, the Japanese air cover got lower and lower and lower and lower. And so finally, they were trying to figure out whether to rearm long-range bombers or whatever, when the next wave of American attackers showed up. Now, that was unplanned, but the Japanese couldn't get up to meet them, and so the attackers then ended up destroying 4 aircraft carrier. Well, in this situation, the Iranians launched some drones, more than 100 drones, 150. And then they would launch cruise missiles. Now, the cruise missiles travel faster than the drone. So you can add, subtract, divide, and you can calculate time that, if a drone's traveling at 150 miles an hour and a cruise missile travels at 400 miles an hour, and a ballistic missile travels at 900 miles an hour, when do you need to fire the drones, the cruise missiles, and the ballistic missiles so they all arrive at the same time or within minutes of each other? Holy smokes, that's a swarm. And what that did to Israel is, so each Patriot, each of their Iron Dome has 3 to 4 launchers. So each launcher can fire up to 20 missiles. Well, right away, you're assuming that maybe you want to target at least 2 missiles per incoming target. So if you got 100, 150 drones coming in, that means you're firing 300 missiles, and those things are expensive, at least $100,000 a piece. All of a sudden, they estimate Israel in launching counterstrikes against Iran may have spent over $1.3 billion, money that it just doesn't have. This attack by Iran was smart, very smart. Because one, they made sure they hit military targets primarily, and they hit a air base in the Negev desert, and another military installation up north towards Lebanon and Syria, the Golan Heights. They were not killing civilians. They left the cities of Tel Aviv and Jaffa and Haifa and Jerusalem untouched. So they were sending a message to Israel, because they showed Israel that we can overwhelm your air defenses with just a small fraction of what we're launching. And my understanding is the ballistic missiles they launched were their older style. They didn't go with their latest, greatest, most technologically advanced stuff. They shot off some old stuff, but it penetrated. And I think the goal was to make Israel now think twice. Say, okay, you have been, Israel, you've been poking us, Iran, in the chest for over 14 years. You've been assassinating our scientists. You've been backing terrorist attacks inside Iran. You've been assassinating the Iranian Revolutionary Guard commanders. So now we're telling you stop. And they did so by hitting these targets, and carried with it the reminder that if you do this, if you retaliate, we're going to hit you harder. Now, Israel is trying to play the victim in all this. Oh, we were hit by terrorist Iran. Oh, hey, they've been attacking Iran for years, getting away with it. And this attack the other day on April 1st on the, I guess, the embassy annex of Iran in Damascus, was an act of war, number one. It was a violation of the Vienna Convention, 1961, number two. And Iran sought UN Security Council action to punish Israel for this. United States, UK, France, oh, no, it's not a problem. Yeah, Iran was asking for it. It's okay to blow up their embassy. So Iran smartly said, okay, under Article 51 of the UN Charter, we can defend ourselves, and by God, we're going to do so. And they made sure that they communicated that to other people in the region. That's why a lot of people started get our diplomats out, pull out of here, and they carried it off. They did enough damage to let Israel know, if you come back at us, if you don't get the message and stop, we can destroy you. Because they can then send a barrage of 500 drones, 500 cruise missiles, 300 ballistic missiles. And what people forget, I'm on an email chain with some people who are very strong supporters of Israel. And they're so blinded by their hatred of Iran. Oh, yeah, we need to launch bombs against, oh, let's go bomb Iran. That'll stop them. So I went back to him. I said, do you realize that Iran is 30 times larger in square miles than Israel? So just do a math problem. Let's say that you're Israel and you're going to launch 1,000 missiles against Iran. And you're Iran and you're going to launch 1,000 missiles against Israel. Which country is going to get a more saturated concentration of punishment? Well, Israel. Because Iran is so big, the mountains are big, the defense establishment has buried a lot of critical infrastructure underground in caves. These people are just stupid. They don't realize that Iran has lots of cards to play. So that, as I look at what happened, Iran was very clear in sending a message. You've now crossed the line with us, and we are showing you what we're capable of doing. And I think it was a bit of a wake-up call for much of the Western world and for Israel.
That is one of the things that we've seen in the Associated Press. They were talking about that 99% of these drones and missiles were intercepted by Israel or
oh yeah, come on. Look, they've got the Ukrainian press spokesman writing that crap. I mean, for God's sake, there is video footage of at least 3 of the hypersonic missiles, the ballistic missiles, pummeling the airbase in the Negev. And the Israeli Iron Dome didn't even touch them. They're coming down. Boom, boom, boom. So, and let's not forget, maybe, if they did shoot down that many, which I doubt, but let's just say they did. That would have been part of a tactical operational objective. Let's use the cheap drones to suck up more costly missiles so that our more expensive, powerful, and accurate cruise missiles and ballistic missiles can come in, take out the target without anything to protect them. And let's remember, Israel does not have an unlimited supply of these. They're running out. That's part of why Hezbollah keeps launching rockets in as well. The more they launch, Israel has to fire more back. And it's like bleeding them out. That's what's happening. And the United States, it doesn't have warehouses filled with stock that it can send over. Not at all. It used all of that up in Ukraine. So I think that you're seeing the propaganda spin. There aren't enough videos out there of some people getting, they're kind of, oh yeah, this is nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom, you see an explosion, and they go quiet.
We've seen that the Israeli government has said that they're going to attack Iran, they're going to respond to Iran. On the other hand, we've seen that the Biden administration is talking about that they're not supporting Israel if they want to attack, they want to respond to Iran. And how do you see the situation in these 2 cases?
It's real simple. If Israel attacks Iran on Iranian territory, some have speculated they can go after oil refineries, oil ports. If they do that, number one, I would anticipate that Iran has beefed up its air defense systems in those areas and would stand a good chance of shooting down a significant number of any Iranian missiles and or aircraft, Israeli missiles or aircraft that try to come into the region. But then Iran has vowed that if Israel does that, it will attack, it will counterattack in much stronger terms. I think people need to start believing the Iranians. They're not lying. They're not exaggerating. They're not claiming something that didn't happen. What they said they were going to do, they did. And part of the problem is people just didn't take them at face value. Oh, they actually meant it. Oh my God. There's a shocker. So the problem with that is that if then it turns into an escalatory ladder, where at some point Israel, if I guarantee you there are some in the cabinet right now, like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, who are arguing vehemently that Israel should use a nuclear weapon or two against Iran, just to show those Iranians that we're not going to mess around. And if they do that, that's going to bring Russia and China into this. And this thing could really spin out of control, very rapidly. And that's one of the great dangers.
It seems that Iranian used 7 hypersonic missiles in this attack, and none of them were intercepted.
Yeah.
If they attack Iranian refineries, and they're gonna have a rigid response from Iran.
Well, if you go back in history, we go back before you were born. In 1983 in Beirut, Lebanon. Yeah, geez, I was all 28 years old back then. Hoo-hoo, old man. The Iranians, backed working with Imad Mughniya, carried out some significant terror strikes against both U.S. and French interests. They did a simultaneous hit on, we call it the Marine barracks, where the Marines were encamped and living, as well as on the French troops, and killed a lot in both French and U.S. Marines. And then it was a few months later, they bombed the U.S. embassy in Beirut and blew that up, and killed, I think it killed at least 4 or 5 people out of the CIA station. Well, Iran was not, even back then, was not indiscriminately attacking civilians. They always had a pretty clear military objective in mind. That they were going after something that was clearly tied to Washington's governing capability, like with or its intelligence community or its military assets. So what we've seen is, despite the United States' claim that Iran is the largest sponsor of terrorism in the world, Iran itself has not been active in carrying out terrorist attacks. If anything, they were really front and center fighting the Salafists, the Sunni Islamic extremists, who were responsible for most of the heinous terrorist attacks over the last 10, 15 years. Iran was fighting them, and in many cases, you find the United States siding with the Islamic extremists as opposed to siding with Iran. So I think what Iran's doing right now is just reflecting that it's a pretty mature state, that despite its deep religious faith and adherence to Islam, it's still going to play a smart diplomatic game. And it's I think, frankly, it's outplaying the United States significantly.
Do we know who was helping Israel to intercept these drones and missiles? Which country was helping Israel? Do we know? Do we have any information on that?
Yeah. Jordan reportedly sent up some planes and fired some air defense missiles. The United States, the Brits flying out of Cyprus. So yeah, there was some assistance there. The Saudis sort of kept quiet. They didn't say one thing or the other. You could actually make the case that they were sort of indirectly helping Israel against Iran. It'll be fascinating to see, because if Iran chooses to shut down a lot of Persian oil Gulf traffic, that's going to affect Saudi Arabia. and we'll see how the Saudis take that. And to that end, that may, Iran may use that as a threat to pressure Saudi Arabia to act more forcefully and, getting Israel condemned, for example, by the United Kingdom, France, and the US.
How did you find the government in Egypt? Have they been involved in this
Yeah,
interception?
they've been relatively silent. You're not, Sisi is not getting out and making big bold speeches and statements and standing up with Israel. What I think is one of the more important aspects of this is the joy it has brought throughout the Islamic Arab world over the fact that finally, Israel really got a taste of its own medicine. In the past, the rockets launched by Hamas and even the rockets launched by Hezbollah were not that significant. They didn't carry a big warhead. They were more of a nuisance attack than an actual military attack. This one yesterday was just the opposite. This was a legit military attack.
Is there any possibility, any likelihood that they're gonna take some sort of action, some response from the Israelis toward Iran that would bring the United States really into this conflict?
Well, I think one of the things Israel will try to do, I think they're serious about trying to retaliate against Iran, hit Iranian territory. Well, they don't have the airlift. Their aircraft can't reach Iran without refueling, and to really make it there as quickly as possible, would have to fly over Iraq and Syria. Well, Iraq and Syria aren't going to give them permission to do that. So they've got that as a problem. They were relying on the United States to help facilitate such an attack, but it sounds like Biden administration is now saying, no, we're not going to do that. So that could hamstring Israel as it plans for its retaliation. But I think they're forgetting just the logistical challenge, because this is a flight that will require if they fly the F-35 jet, I would think it's going to require at least 3 refuelings, if not 4, to get to and from the whole thing. So there's a distance problem. They need the United States to try to cajole the Saudis, Omanis, Qataris into opening up their airspace so perhaps Israel could use it. But I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think what you're looking at is the United States' ability to influence that is dead, over.
We know that Israelis were asking to have a meeting to discuss Iranian attack on Israel. We know that Russia and China would not vote in favor of Israel in this conflict. And how do you think, what was behind this request on the part of Israelis?
The Hebrew term or the Yiddish term is chutzpah. That's what's an example of chutzpah? 2 guys that kill their parents and then plead that they're not guilty because they're orphans. Oh, you can't prosecute us, we're orphans. Well, they caused the death and destruction. The same way here. Israel's protesting that it was attacked illegally, when in fact the one who was responsible for an illegal attack was Israel, not Iran. And Iran did what was allowed under Article 51, an act of self-defense to Israel, sending a real clear message. If you continue to attack us, we're going to up this, and what you've seen today is only a taste of what's to come. You ain't seen nothing yet.
The other dimension of this conflict would be these US troops in Syria. And that was because Iran said if the United States start helping Israelis to attack Iran, they're going to respond to the United States. Are they talking about these US troops in Syria?
No, I don't think. I don't see any stomach or desire on the part of the US to do that. France, yes. But again, look at France. the other day, they put their frigate, they had one French frigate as part of that Operation Prosperity Guardian, the one, that's going to stop the Houthis from launching missiles. And the French captain of the ship says, yeah, we're out of here. This is too dangerous. There's too much shooting going on. We're going home. So they think they can't hang against the Houthis. They think that they can go toe to toe with the Russians. Good luck with that. That's just insane. It is absolutely a sign of mental illness. Anybody that embraces that concept.
Terry, before wrapping up, I want to know how we can call world war. We're gonna have war. We have a war in Ukraine right now, a conflict in Gaza right now between Iran and Israel. I don't know if we're gonna have a new conflict in Taiwan. This is a world war. We are. It seems that we are approaching a world war.
Yeah, it's world war by proxy right now, and you've got the many in the United States who are just chomping at the bit that they want to attack China, and by God, we need to drop nukes. Drop nukes on the Palestinians. Just kill all those Palestinians. And I think at some point the folks in Yemen's already fighting. Saudi's going to come under increased pressure to do something. They can't have it both ways, because it looks like even though they restored relations with Iran, they're still trying to be more in the Western camp, and that's not going to work.